Hi, I'm David Traversi, and this is part of our series called How to Sell Your Business. In preparing to sell, you're going to need to identify your potential buyers. From the beginning of your process, start preparing a list of potential buyers. This is your target list, and the names on it, of course, are your targets. This is a critically important step in the process. Without the appropriate audience, you likely won't be selling your company, or you'll be selling it for far less than you'd like. Unfortunately, there's no silver bullet method of identifying your potential buyers. It involves a lot of research and a lot of hard work. Google, AI, and your phone will be your best friends. We use the analogy of pulling on threads and not stopping until there are no more loose threads. In our case study for potential strategic buyers, Patsy started her list with the public companies in the pet services space. She then looked in her trade journals for large pet service providers in her and neighboring regions, and she added those to her list. She then added the largest local providers of related goods and services, for instance, pet stores, kennel, and pet daycare providers. For potential financial buyers, she started her list with private equity firms that had invested in the space. Private equity firms generally issue press releases announcing their investments and acquisitions, and so her Google search yielded those names. She networked with local business leaders, including business bankers and trade support organizations, to identify more. Let's talk a little bit about identifying strategic targets. Again, these are targets that may have an interest in acquiring your company for strategic purposes. Strategically, this could mean that they're already in your business and they want to expand their footprint geographically, that they're already in your business but believe they could learn valuable things from your company that they could then apply across their business, or that they are already in your business and they want to buy you to eliminate a competitor and facilitate the growth of their existing business, or they are in a highly related business and they want to enter into your business. Or finally, they are in an unrelated business, but they have an interest in diversifying by buying your business. For smaller companies, strategics are the most likely types of buyers. Financials generally have institutional investors behind them. They have to deploy a lot of investment money to generate meaningful returns, and therefore they aren't interested in small companies. To what individual do you direct your outreach? Well, for targeted strategic buyers, if they have a corporate development officer, that's your target. That's code for acquisitions. Most large companies have that type of an officer. In the absence of that officer, we suggest targeting the CEO. Don't approach the head of marketing, head of sales, business development, or human resources. We've never had much success approaching the chief financial officer either, and certainly don't approach any sub-executive employee. And how do you get the contact information for these targeted individuals at these target companies? Well, it takes work, and while not always possible, many times it is. And try the following, which we regularly use in our sell-side efforts. First, look them up on LinkedIn and send them a LinkedIn message, making sure to drop the names of any mutual friends. In our case study, the message should be something along the lines of, I own a thriving pet services business, and I'm exploring our strategic alternatives. If you'll connect with me, that should provide your email, and I will send along some information for your review. Thank you. Secondly, if you have a first-degree contact at LinkedIn that knows them, reach out to your contact and ask if they would share your target's email address with you or introduce you to the target. Third, call the company and ask for the administrative assistant of your target. Ask them if you can either have the target's email, or if not, if you can send your outreach to the assistant to have it forwarded to the target. Fourth, do an internet search for an email address. You'll be surprised how often they are available. And finally, subscribe to PitchBook. That's pitchbook.com, or ZoomInfo, zoominfo.com. They are very good resources for finding potential buyers. Subscriptions to them are in the tens of thousands of dollars, although they very well may be worth it for such an important transaction in your life. If you're not familiar with or have not joined LinkedIn at linkedin.com, it's well worth it for you to do that. It costs nothing for their basic service, and as described above, can greatly assist your efforts to contact potential buyers. Let's, before we finish, talk about identifying financial targets. For smaller companies, as described, this could be a very limited universe. But given the phenomenal amount of capital available in this sector, it merits some investigation. Just searching the internet and talking to people in your industry, you should be able to discover if there have been financial investor interest in your industry. Financial investors tend to be private equity firms and family offices. Family offices, by the way, are investment management offices handling the financial needs of one or more wealthy families. Also, hedge funds and other investors that purchase companies primarily as a means of earning a financial return. And those same sources should be able to generally describe the investment criteria of those interested investors. Unlike strategic buyers, where it's often quite difficult to procure the email address of the correct person at the targeted investor, financial buyers make themselves much more available to people with investment opportunities. Try to identify and contact the partner level person that handles investments in your industry. Thank you, and look for future episodes of How to Sell Your Business.